Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here, and I'm back with another video for assignments to stamp. Today we're going to be using a couple of sets to make this fun kind of fairy tale encouragement card. So the first set I picked out is Dream Come True, and the other one is Amazing Messages. So I really loved this. The Dream Come True set is actually part of the STAMPtember card kit. So some of you may already have it. But I don't know if you realized, because for a long time I didn't, they actually sell the stamp sets separately so you can pick them up, which I was thrilled about. So my original thought was to do a one-layer card. So I stamped the Fantastic with the cloud and the rainbow in order to be able to get masks and make it a one-layer card for my castle, because I wanted to make the small castle a very large castle. So I am using Scotch masking tape and a full stick post-it note, and I have put them sticky side together. So I'm stamping down the part of the castle, one right on top of the other, and then I'm going to fussy cut it out to make my mask. The reason that I put them sticky side together is because then when I peel them apart, I'm going to have the mirror image of the castle, which I need because I'm going to be using the mirror technique to stamp my castle. So just kind of a fun way to stretch your stamps. And so now I have these two masks. I have a piece of acetate here. They sell acetate separately, or you can use packaging. And I'm going to stamp down. I'm using Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp because it's Copic safe. And so I'm going to stamp directly down and back up. Be very careful. Acetate is a slick surface, and so it can move around really easily. I'm going to just press this onto the paper. I'm going to lift it up to check to make sure that I have a good transfer. If for some reason it doesn't transfer well, or you don't get a good image, just clean off your acetate with some stamp cleaner or some alcohol and try again. No big deal. And also the same thing if you use packaging and you don't want your stamping left on there. Clean it off with some alcohol and you're good to go. So I stamped the castle, and in order to make them one complete castle, I'm using a pencil to just draw in a gate in between the two, so that now that they just look like one castle. Like I have an east wing and a west wing, and I got my little castle in the clouds. I'm using the EK Success journaling pens. You can use anything that is Copic safe, or if you decide to do this another way that is safe for your medium. I am going to be coloring with Copic markers, so this is what's going to work for me. And I'm just going over the outline that we stamped there because it does stamp very faint. And I'm just bolstering that up so it looks like a regular stamped image. I'm putting all of my masks in place here for the gate. Since I stamped it myself, I just chose a lighter color full stick post-it note and then traced it. I decided I wanted to put a sun in here, so I'm bringing in Happy Days, which is another Simon stamp set. I'm going to stamp my clouds. These are from the Dream Come True set, and mask those off. And then all of the cute little images, and they are darling images, from the Happy Days set have these cute little smiley faces on it, but I didn't want the smiley face. And I was too lazy to get up and find my baby wipes, so I just wiped it off with my finger. It was fine. It didn't transfer. It was no big deal. But I would recommend using something along the lines of a baby wipe or such. I'm showing you these Distress Oxides because you're going to see the way that the background looks. But I didn't keep this, guys, and I'm not trying to keep you here for 100 years, but I do not want any of you to ever feel like, oh, well, you know, you're quote-unquote professional, you know, this is something that you do all the time, it's, you know, a job for you, and so all of your cards are perfect. None of my cards are perfect. 0 of them. I always have to make adjustments. If you watch my regular YouTube channel, you know I'm always making adjustments. And so I wanted you to see how I get from the very beginning to the very end with all of my errors. So I did do the Distress Oxide background, but we're not going to keep it, so I didn't show it to you. For the clouds, I love anything that's kind of just fairy tale, romantic, very, I don't know, I was a little girl at one time, and so I just love all things that are, you know, princess and have that feel. And I wanted my clouds to be a little bit more whimsical, and I wanted them to, I wanted to be able to fill that space. So one of the ways that I do that is by taking a C1, which is a very light gray, You can use any color that works for you. You can do this in blue or purples, whatever you want your clouds to be. I like to start with a gray base, and then I just make little flourishes, little swoops, little swirls within my clouds. I'm going back in with a C3 and just adding that where I feel like it would be the darkest, so kind of where like the 2 points of the clouds meet, or if there's one cloud on top of another. And I'm not taking it all the way out into the body of the cloud. I'm just really leaving it where those 2 points meet. You saw me using so many colors, and the reason I'm using so many colors is because I don't like when my clouds are just gray. I want them to be kind of reflective of what is around them, and one of my favorite combinations is to use a very light RV, a very light V, a B, a BG, and so I'm just basically picking the colors out randomly and going over the swirls that I have drawn, so that each one of them is kind of a different color. The cloud has a, I don't know, I guess a very reflective feel, because, you know, that's how we get rainbows, is, you know, rain and sun. So I just wanted it to kind of have that feel there, and I'm just going right over the color. Lighter colors will lift darker colors, so they will blend together. I'll show you a couple of things, a couple of ways to make that blend a little bit better if you don't get a great blend, or if maybe you chose a darker marker or got kind of carried away with the C3. That happens to me sometimes. So now I'm on the last one, which is the BG11. You can also do like little half moons, little swirls. You don't necessarily need to connect them to the outside. If you have a very large cloud, you can kind of put them in the middle like a little C shape and fill in that area. So one of the ways I like to soften them, first of all, is going in with a BG quadruple 0 or a B quadruple 0, and I just go over all the colors. I know I'm putting a BG over a V. I don't care. It's fine. They're light enough that it's not going to be a big deal. The other way that you can blend them really well is to go over the whole cloud, which is what I'm doing here, with your colorless blender. And this just really kind of pushes that ink into the paper and softens out all of those lines. Now, right now the clouds look kind of dark, especially the ones next to the white, but they will lighten up substantially as we add more color. You'll notice here that there are more clouds than you saw originally. On the bottom, I just felt like it was a little bit too barren, so I did add in some more clouds. And again, it didn't even staying this way, so it doesn't matter. So I picked out some very pale yellows for my sunshine back here. I'm starting with a Y quadruple 0 and just filling everything in. And then I'm going to start adding some shading from behind the cloud, and then also I'm doing little triangle shapes within the triangle shapes. So I'm not taking it out all the way to the edge just yet. I am making the triangles a little bit smaller every time, but I wanted to do something to set it apart from the main circle of the sun. And I'm also not taking my shading all the way up to the very edge. Using this Y21, which is the darkest color I'm going to use, really just around the clouds, and then again a very small triangle within the triangles. When I am coloring, I like to start with my lightest color and then work out to my darkest, and from my darkest back into my lightest. I feel like that gives me the best blend, but you do whatever works for you. You don't necessarily need to do that. So my second lightest color was this Y00, which I filled in the little triangles, the little rays from the sun in completely, and then I just added my lightest color to the body of it. For the coloring of the castle, I guess I was feeling a little bit Cinderella here because I decided I was going to go all blue. I don't know if you've ever been to Disney World? Disneyland. Which one's in Florida? That's the one I've been to. I think it's Disneyland. I think Disney World's in California. Anyway, moving on. So I just color blocked what I wanted to be blue, so I knew where I was going to go very quickly with my coloring. And also I knew I needed to color dark enough. If you can see that flag kind of in the middle there, his little mask came off, and so he got some Distress Oxide on him. So I knew it needed to be dark enough to cover that up. Because I want this object to look round, I'm going to add most of my dark shading on the outside. For the portion of it that is sticking out, I'm adding some blue there as well, just so it wouldn't be all gray and very flat. The darkest color, I'm just adding a line to the outside of the roof, and then underneath the the brick portion that we're using is kind of like an accent. And then I'm going to start working my way back toward that lightest color. For the flag, I added just a little bit of an indentation on the right where it is ribboned. What's the term for that? Like a banner shape. And then just a line of it on the part that's flat. So worked all the way out to my lightest color. I went ahead and colored all of them. I wanted to add in a little bit of detail, so I added some lines on the gate, and then later on I'm also going to add some little C shapes to the roof to kind of mimic shingles, and I think that part might have gotten lost, so my apologies. For the actual color of the castle, I'm going in with the grays, and you just heard me say earlier that I like to start with my lightest color and work out to my darkest. With something like this, because I don't have a whole lot of real estate, I don't want to have to go over it multiple times because I don't want to worry about any bleeding, and I don't want the colors to be too dark. So I'm starting with my darkest color and laying in only where the shadows are. That's going to be under your roofs. That's going to be under any portion that's going to stick out, so kind of the accents. And even on top of it, because it's going to jut away from the building and it will have a shadow. I also added a little bit of shadow underneath the windows and then like the little peepholes. In order to make it look slightly more dimensional, I made each consecutive layer darker. So the one that's in the front, I left a lot of white. I didn't color it in completely with the C1. I left a lot of white. And then the next level, I added more C1, and then the one in the back, I added more C3. So everything just kind of got a little bit darker. I also used my C3 to kind of draw some just grid lines, general grid lines that would maybe look like bricks on the body of it, and the C5 to fill in some of those windows. This sentiment, which I love, I just love the style, and I felt like they all really matched super well, just that very graphic kind of fun style. And I wanted to color in this rainbow because as of right now, I'm thinking I'm still going to keep this background. So I wanted the colors to match. And I wanted to be able to fit all of my rainbow colors in there. So in order to do that, I just kind of ignored the lines. I'm blending some color families here that the way that I picked them was like, it was a RV25, which will blend well with a VO4 because the numbers on the end are very similar. If you have ever seen my series, the What Would Kelly Make series, we do talk about color blending in one of the months, and we also talk about the mirror technique in one of the months. So that's definitely something you could look into if you'd like more information about how I chose the colors that would blend together. I felt like everything was just maybe a little bit blue, and that's why I wasn't liking it, so I opted to take that VO4 and go over the flags. I also, you'll notice that my masking isn't perfect. While I had this purple marker out, I started filling in some of those gaps where the masking wasn't great, and I did that with each kind of color in the background. So just pick whatever you have that's going to be close, and it'll work to cover those up. I wanted to leave the fantastic white, but I needed it to stand out from those clouds, so I'm adding in a drop shadow. I typically like to add my drop shadows as if my light source is in the top right-hand corner, so the shadows will be to the bottom left. I'm going in with a white gel pen and adding just a diagonal like scribble line basically across the windows to just make them look like they're shiny and reflective. And then I'm actually going to go in with the white gel pen anywhere I had any kind of bleeding in that fantastic area. I'm coming back with that same EK Success journaling pen to outline everything that I stamped. I like a bold black outline, and I wanted it to match the one I outlined. Here, you're going to think I've lost my mind. I haven't. I'm a sane person. Like, I'm not certifiable. I'm cutting it out, guys. I couldn't do it. I didn't like the background. If you do, that's great. That's why I showed you the colors that I used. So that you could see what that looked like. But I tried a couple of different things. I tried adding water to the background. I tried adding perfect pearls to the background. I just couldn't make myself like it. And I'm not starting over. I am super invested in this card at this point. So I busted out my Tim Holtz craft knife. I cut out that little area there. And then now because it's cut out, I need to kind of doctor up those edges. This is a trick I learned from Christina Warner, who I believe learned it from Kathy Rakusin. If you have something that's super intricate and it's going to take 100 years to do the black outline on the edge and you're worried you're going to miss something, just put it flat down on a piece of paper and color around it. You'll get all the edges. So now I have a new piece of Neenah Solar White here, and I'm very, very lightly marking where my cloud castle, if you will, is going to sit. I know I'm not going to be able to erase this after I put the Distress Oxide on top of it, so I am being very, very light-handed with those pencil marks. And then I'm going to go in with Salty Ocean and a very, very light hand. I think part of the reason why I didn't like the other one is because I was kind of heavy-handed with that Distress Oxide. Once I kind of have that laid out, it doesn't look great. I'm not concerned about it because this enormous stamped piece is going to go on top of it. I am going to go back in and do the Perfect Pearls. I already did it on top of the castle when I was trying to fix the other background. And so I wanted them to match. I'm doing the, this is Perfect Pearls in the color Perfect Pearls. They bond with water. So once I mix it with water and put it on the paper, it's not going anywhere. And then I also use just some clean, clear water to get some, just so that oxidation. I have the stamp piece here. I'm adding some Scotch foam tape onto the back, a ton of Scotch foam tape, all these little teeny tiny pieces. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down. I loved this background so much better. It was just, I think it was just too busy for me. I did put some Scotch foam pieces behind those flags. It's not really to necessarily adhere them, but more as like a stabilizer. Once that was down, I needed to complete that sentiment, so I have some black Simon Says Stamp cardstock here. I am treating that with my embossing bag, and then I'm going to stamp in Versamark ink. So I'm going to stamp Have and Day onto these little, this little black strip I have here. I'm going to use some Simon White embossing powder, and I'm going to go ahead and hit that with my heat tool until it's all melted and smooth. Once I have that all done, I'm going to trim them out into individual like little labels, and I'm just going to adhere them flat. Everything's already popped up, so I'm going to adhere them right onto that popped up portion with some Tombow multi-glue, so it will read Have a Fantastic Day. I think this would be super cute to, well, my sister thinks she's a princess and she's well into her 30s, but, or if you have a niece, a nephew, a daughter who just loves princesses, this would be a little fun something to make for them. I'm probably going to send it to a crafty friend who would appreciate kind of the graphic design. I went in with some white Nuvo drops. I don't have the glitter ones, and I gotta tell you, I gotta get them. This is just the simple white, just to kind of accent that sentiment, and because there can never be enough glitter ever, ever, I'm going in with some clear Winkestella and just kind of hitting the castle and parts of the letters there. So that's it. That's the whole card. I hope that there's many techniques in this video and that maybe you'll be inspired to try one of them. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.